there, guys. Before we start today's episode, just a reminder to follow, share, rate, and review the show so it reaches more teens like you. That would be so awesome. Would greatly appreciate it. And if you're a parent listening, follow me on Instagram or Facebook at Leslie Rose Coaching for more teen health and wellness information, free checklists and worksheets for your teen, and to sign up for my parent newsletter for updates on teen and parenting topics. Hey guys, today I'm joined by Christy Howard, who is a certified mom life coach, and she's joining me today to talk about vision boards. I think this is a great topic for you guys, really exciting, because this is something that you can be done at any age, any time, and with any type of goal. Christy, why don't you introduce yourself? Just let us know a little bit about you, and then we'll jump in and get started.
Hi, Leslie. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited
Yeah.
to be here. And I am a mom life coach. My background is actually in family and consumer science. That's always been my love, is families and the family unit. And this is the process that really started me, gave me a huge boost for self-improvement, was creating vision boards. And just like you said, I love them so much because you can do it with any age. You can even do it with little kids. And the process can be fun if you make it that way. So I'm really excited to talk about this topic specifically.
Great. Yeah, it sounds like it's very near and dear to your heart. So that's wonderful. And I know you work with clients on it and you utilize that as a tool to help them figure out their vision and their goals and move forward on them.
Yes, absolutely. So this is the one that I like to start out with most clients. So I have a few tools that I start out with. If a client has gone through fairly significant trauma but has worked through it, I have found in a few instances this is not the best tool, but for the majority of people, this is a wonderful way for them to look towards the future and see what they want. And even like those people that I was speaking of, they even got something from the process and were able to work past what they had from previous times. So that's not my specialty. I just like to throw that in there because I think it's kind of unique the way that it works as well. So this
Yeah.
process is so neat because why? Why do you make one, right? This seems like it's something that we would just sit down and do for fun, like a craft or this or that. Because when we actually take action towards our goals and our dreams, we write them down, we create them, we envision it. Scientists say that's putting us towards our goals and our dreams. It's not just something that's fluff. They have lots of research, even from coaches for people who coached Olympians, where they would close their eyes and they would envision whatever they were trying to do to get over that hump, to get to
Right.
that goal. And it helps them. They've learned that it actually fires those muscles. Well, the same thing can happen for our brain. That's why these are so important to do.
Great. So let's talk a little bit, just kind of describe what a vision board is so that everyone listening can get a good sense of what it's all about.
Yes, absolutely. So a vision board or a dream board, I've heard lots of different terms for it. These are boards where you put either items or pictures or quotes, anything that is visual that you could put in a particular space and then hang it or have it somewhere where you will see it every day. So the reason why I say items, because I've seen people use flowers. I've seen a variety of different things. You can get so creative with these ticket stubs. I personally have copied and pasted over something that I want to be a goal. So X number of this. And that is a great way to do it as well. You can do it digitally. We can get into that a little bit, but there's a
Sure.
variety of different mediums that you can put it on as well. So that's what makes it sort of a unique thing to each person as well. Depends on
Mhm.
what resonates with you.
Right. And it sounds a little bit like it's a living, breathing document too, or a board where you can change it over time as your goals evolve and change.
Yes, absolutely. I've even seen ones where it was almost like a book and it had slots. And so you could take photos and put them in those slots. It
Right.
was just exactly like you say. It was kind of living, breathing. You can adapt and change it.
Yeah, that's great. So let's start talking about how you go about making a vision board. If you're wanting to go after some goals, or there's something that you want to achieve. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Great. So the first thing that I say for this, and this is very important in the process, a lot of people just say, oh no, I'm just going to start and go ahead and do it, which I love the enthusiasm, but take a minute or two to do some sort of meditation or clearing your mind, whatever you want to call that process for yourself, breathing exercise, visualizing yourself in a space that you enjoy, whatever. But take those 1 to 2 minutes to get your mind calm and in that space, ready to receive. Then you can start to identify your goals and work towards writing those down in a journal or finding photos from Pinterest, going somewhere that inspires you. So, for example, a museum or a library or any other space that resonates with you. That will help you start the process before you put anything down on paper, so to speak.
Yeah. And I know when I've done it, I've had a few questions that I'll ask myself, like, what will this vision board do for me? What is my goal? What do I want to get out of it? And how will things be different if some of these things come true for me? So thinking through it in those terms and helping me to build that vision a little bit more defined than just like what you were saying is, oh, it's a fun creative project.
Yes. And I love that too. I love the way that you've put that as well, because something that I think is extremely valuable is we've all been programmed to say, okay, problem solution, problem solution, problem solution. Well, the solution is not always the best or ideal one. Sometimes it's nice to sit with that journal and say, well, what are all the options? What can I think of? I've heard this terminology, brain dump, but it's the idea. Just put everything down on paper. That's what's so wonderful about this process is there's not a right or wrong. You can put down your feelings, you can put down ideas, and if you have buckets that you want things to go into as well. So, for example, if someone says, I want to have a goal to consistently write in my journal 2 times a week, you could consider that a bucket, right? That's like a self-improvement bucket. Okay, so this is what I want to do for myself. So you can also think about those buckets. Okay, maybe pick 2 or 3, because if you pick, 7 to 9, you're overwhelming yourself and that's just too much. But just pick a few and maybe that will get your momentum going as well.
Yeah. So you pick a few buckets. One is self-improvement. Maybe one is volunteerism, or, developing your community, your sense of community, and whatever it might be. And maybe there's a third one, but I would agree with you that having more than that does get overwhelming because you're just trying to figure out which one should I be putting my priority against? What should I be focusing on? So once you've done that and you've created those buckets or those particular goals that you're going after, how do you then start to move forward with that? Like, what materials, steps do you take, those sorts of things?
Yep. So this is a great question because it also relates to, it depends on the person. So I have had multiple different ways that I've done vision boards and that I've seen them as well. I think this is so cool. So if somebody is always going to look at their screen, their background on their computer, make one of those. And Canva, you can create anything for free. At this point, at least, they're allowing free accounts. So go into Canva and create one digitally. You can make it whatever size you want, which is fantastic. You can make it a background for your computer. You can print it out and put it on the mirror, put it on the refrigerator. But if you like that tactile option of creating it yourself with all the physical objects, do that too. Get some
Poster board?
like a chipboard, I guess, is kind of
board.
what I was thinking. Just a little bit thicker, that would be nice. And you can cut that into different sizes as well. Or you can get a whole poster board. I've seen somebody make it from a whole poster board. And that's beautiful too, because you have lots of space. You can move things around. So a lot of just the general items that you would need for that would obviously be like scissors and glue. I would recommend like a rubber cement glue if you're going to put it on the paper so it doesn't get all wavy. That's usually a nicer one. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if you
Mm-hmm.
like to write out words or you want to draw, make something beautiful, get some really great colors out and start putting it together. There's no wrong way to do this. This is not math. It's not one
Mm-hmm.
plus one. Like, play around with the placement, make things go off the board a little bit, because it does give it some more visual interest.
Yeah.
And it shows it, that also helps your brain that you're thinking outside the box, that not everything has to be this black or white. So again, it reiterates within that process that this is not a problem with one solution. It's a fluid process and you're in charge of it. You have the opportunity to create and change however you want.
So true. I mean, this is such a personalized piece of work, and it can become an artwork if you want, if you're inclined to that, and getting really creative. And as you're saying, going kind of outside the box and off the edges so that you are expanding your mind and you're allowing yourself to think beyond the normal parameters that you might. So I think that's wonderful in being able to visualize it that way, and that there isn't a right or wrong, and you can take it in so many different directions. And what maybe one of your best friends is doing is not necessarily what you could be doing something completely different. Another area that I just wanted to throw out is that I've done this before is with Pinterest and using their boards and creating some vision boards there, because then, they're personalized, they're mine, and I can keep them private if I want, or I can make them public. But then, being able to add to that and over time pulling off and putting new ones on and being able to play
Mhm.
around with that. So that's another area that if someone really likes Pinterest, they can hop in there and create a vision board in there.
Yes, and I love that too, because just like you said, you can move them around. So I have a section in my Pinterest, it's also private, of the goals that I've already achieved. And so that's nice to look back on and say, oh my goodness, everything, everything that's in this board I've done. And that's
Mm-hmm.
a really nice sense of accomplishment
And
too.
Christy, that's a really good point, is being able to look back, which is something that I did want to touch on, and we can talk about it later too. But, being able to go back and look at your progress, which is so, so important in this process.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Because the final step would be you're going to put this somewhere where you see it every single day. You want to make sure that it's in your line of sight and that you are paying attention to it every single day. And I'll get to a little caveat to that in a minute. But
Okay.
that's the final step,
Yeah.
display your artwork proudly, what you've created.
Great. And so let's talk about that. So you come up with your goals and your buckets, then you get your materials together, whether it's digital or it's tactile, it's materials that you're utilizing, and you create your board and you put it up on your wall in your bedroom, or it's on your phone, on your screensaver, or on your laptop or computer or whatever. Variety of different ways that you can visualize this and see it on a daily basis. And I think that is really important that you emphasize daily, because it needs to be a constant reminder for you. So in order for it to work, right? If we're going to put this together and then just leave it and let it gather dust, what's the point? It was a nice
Right.
creative project, but it didn't really go beyond that. So it's
Yeah.
so, so important. And I'm glad you pointed that out, that it needs to be something that's in front of you daily. So you're getting the information back and you're getting that inspiration and that reminder of what it is that you want to do or achieve or how you want to change. And once we've done that and we're looking at it on a daily basis, what do we do from there?
Yes. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's where people stop a lot of times. And you can't just stop there. What I have noticed clients give feedback, and I've noticed myself, once a week. Because if you have not done this before at all and you try to do it every day, it's kind of overwhelming. So start with a once a week. Check in with yourself. Pull out your journal and write your thoughts down. If you're like me and just writing can sometimes be hard, just do the bullet points, like maybe just a couple of thoughts or feelings, little bullet point, and then a word. That's fine. Another thing I've heard clients use, and I personally can use better, is like the voice notes. In Word, you can now do voice notes, but on your phone, just having that as a recording with your thoughts is also sometimes easier for the people who cannot put things down on paper as easily as speaking, if that makes sense. there was a term, there's speakers who write and writers who speak. And I thought, oh yes, that's correct.
Right.
I
Being
agree with
able to
that.
articulate what you're thinking is not always as easy as we might think it is. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have
Okay.
one more tip for the final part of this process is you need to update yourself and check in with if you're paying attention to it. So everybody gets used to their patterns and they go through their daily tasks. You need to pay attention and notice when you're not looking at this anymore, when it's not something that is in your line of vision or you're looking at specifically, making a conscious effort. So that's when you need to move the board to another location. That is a very important part of the process too, because you don't
Mhm.
want to have it up in the same spot and then it not be doing anything for you.
Right, because it becomes wallpaper, right? And I
Yes.
know I mentioned wallpaper on your phone or your desktop, but that's kind of the concept is you stop noticing it over time because your
Mm-hmm.
mind is conditioned to it. It knows it's there and you're not consciously looking at it and thinking about it. So great point, because I could definitely see how that happens. And so what you're saying is looking at it weekly and just making sure that you're reviewing and going back and looking at, okay, how did things go this week? What's happening? What have I done towards these buckets or these goals? And then, as you're saying, start to notice over time if you're looking at it and referring to it less and less, and then changing where it's located, maybe how it's represented or something like that.
Yes, and I've even heard people do things as simply as put it in a frame because
Mm-hmm.
then it visually looks different. You're then your eyes are drawn more to the frame. So I thought that was a great idea as well.
Yeah. And another thought that just popped up in my head is maybe even putting it into your calendar on your phone so that it pops up at you as a reminder, in your reminders or whatever, that, to look at it weekly or to look at it daily or something like that. But,
Yes.
having other tools and utilizing other methods to keep you on track with that and utilizing it. Any thoughts about examples or how this has worked for clients that you've worked with before? So we
Mhm.
can give an example to all of our listeners today, how that might work for them.
Sure. So I'll give you an example about myself because this one's easy to talk about. I try to be very mindful with information from clients. Sometimes
Mhm.
I can get too excited, so I'll just use myself. um, so I have two young children, a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, and a few years ago I had put Minnie and Mickey on my board. My husband and I, like right around maybe before the pandemic hit, we said we really want to take them to Disney World. But when she's 5, because we want her to be able to remember. And that was on the board for obviously a few years. We kind of played around with it and she needed to become a certain age, but it also gave us time to talk to other people who had gone to Disney World and see what their experiences were. Oh, we had to wear masks at the time when we were thinking about booking. We had a fast pass, but it was still 2.5 hours and this and that,
When they were
lots of different
limiting, yeah,
caveats. And
yeah,
so this is again a great example of there's not always problem solution, right? So I thought, well, I love the magic of Disney. That's what I care about. What else do I love doing when I travel? Going on cruises. Oh, look at that. Disney does cruises. So then I thought, okay, this is perfect. I looked into it and we just made payment plans up until when we went on our cruise. And we just recently came back from our cruise in January. So it's a great example of a long term goal, pivoting the goal, and still getting what you want from it.
yeah. And being able to be flexible and readjust given circumstances that are outside of your control that you can't
Yes.
always ensure are going to go the way you want them to. And that's the reality of life. That's what happens is things can change for us. So it's great to be able to have that vision where it's like, okay, I can still achieve that. I now just need to think of it in new terms and then make those modifications and still go after it.
Yes, that's exactly right. And my clients hear me say this all the time, and I definitely want to share it with you and all of your listeners. It's dreams plus goals equal reality because you can achieve it It might not happen in the way that you thought it would, but it is definitely achievable.
All right. Christy, any other words of advice or thoughts about vision boards that you want to share today?
I'm excited that you're letting everyone else learn about the process. This is exciting for me, and I can't wait to see what comes from it.
Yeah, and I love it. And why I wanted to talk about it today is because it's a simple, easy, fun, and creative approach to your goals. It's not like this difficult doing a worksheet or, having a goal setting session or something. It's a fun way and a visual way and a nice reminder that gets you excited and keeps you on track and allows you to be able to see the progress that you have made visually. And I know for a lot of people, they're visual learners or visual workers. If you're one of those people, this is a wonderful way to approach goal setting and to be able to work on self-improvement. So thanks so much for coming today and sharing all of that with us. I think it's really helpful. And everyone who's listening, just get excited and start putting that together. Just go through the steps. So what we talked about, we're taking some time sitting and thinking about what are your goals? What is it that you want to achieve? Where are you going? Map that out, then gather your materials, decide what sort of platform you want to utilize. Is it paper, boards, those sorts of things? Or is it more digital and using an app or a program like Canva? And then putting it all together and allowing it to be as free form as you choose. And it's totally you, totally what you're all about. And then from there, looking at it daily, reinforcing it daily, and then looking back, on a weekly basis saying, how am I doing on these things? Which one do I want to prioritize? And then working towards making those happen.
Yes,
All
absolutely.
right. Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. And everyone, get going on creating your vision boards.
Get creative. Have a great day.
Okay. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Healthy Teen Life podcast. New shows release every Wednesday morning, so be sure to follow the show and subscribe so you never miss a week. If you're a parent looking for help and information for your teen, connect with me on Instagram at Leslie Rose Coaching or to sign up for the Healthy Teen Life newsletter for parents.